Prop airliner, which crash-landed at Manchester after an undercarriage failure, was praised today for his textbook performance. Captain John Jones has been modestly keeping his head down today, but he did talk to air accident investigators and told his employers, British Regional Airlines, that what he did was just part of his job. They said the perfect landing he made ensured that no one was hurt. Paul Davies saw what happened.
He had trained for just such a possibility, but that was in a simulator where a bad decision would cost only embarrassment. Yesterday evening, 70 lives were at stake as Captain John Jones attempted to land BA 7725 on only part of its undercarriage. There had been 3 hours circling to burn up fuel, planning this critical moment. Briefly, the stricken plane took on the graceful appearance of an ice skater, balancing on its good wheels as it lost speed. It was slower and safer by the time it toppled over. There was a scare as sparks and flames threatened a fire in the broken wing, but it did not materialize. "20 seconds after the plane came to a halt, fire crews were on the scene, and the evacuation of passengers got underway on the far side of the aircraft, away from the damaged wing and fuel tanks. Many of the passengers had been travelling to the Holy Shrine at Knock. After 3 hours, fully aware of the dangers they faced, they ran to safety, while fire crews poured foam over the plane. A disaster had been averted. Those who'd been saved thanked the pilot.
When you got off the plane and you saw that it was only one wheel, you realised how bad it was, but how good they coped with it, really.
No one was injured or scarred or anything. It was marvellous. I was looking around thinking that who wasn't going to get through. You know, some of us wouldn't make it, but fortunately we all got through.
Honestly, that pilot, it was like he was... I never heard a thing when he landed it. I never heard one thing. All I heard was that, get out, and
shock,
we just
came out and
belts off and
shot down the wing.
While investigators looked for the cause of the undercarriage failure, the pilot's fellow professionals have applauded his skill.
I think it was a textbook example of how to land an aeroplane in those circumstances. In fact, speaking to somebody this morning, they said he actually landed the aeroplane better in real life than he did actually in the simulator. It was so good.
The emergency services are hailing this escape as a triumph for good, sound training. Captain Jones had rehearsed for such a possibility over and over again. So had the fire crews, who this afternoon, less than 24 hours after the real thing, were practicing for the next problem on their simulated disaster set alongside the runway. The mechanical fault which left 70 passengers and crew relying on the skills of Captain John Jones is still being investigated. It's likely to be several days before the cause of the failure is known. Captain Jones is refusing to appear before the cameras or to accept the mantle of hero. After briefing the investigation team, he hopes to be flying again by the end of the week. Paul Davies, News at 10, Manchester Airport.
But how did Captain Jones get his aircraft down safely? And how are pilots prepared for emergencies like last night's at Manchester? Here's our science editor, Lawrence McGinty.
The advanced turboprop has had its problems. 7 years ago, British Airways grounded its fleet because of an undercarriage failure. But its safety record since then has been excellent. The particular plane involved, registration GB-UUP, was an advanced turboprop model manufactured by British Aerospace in 1988, one of only 63 built. Today's landing was helped by the ATP short landing distance of less than 1,100 meters. A jetliner typically needs more than 1,600 meters. We asked Captain Walter Brunn, a 747 pilot with 40 years flying experience, to explain how Captain Jones landed safely.
Basic approach is a normal approach, and then as the wing wants to go and fall towards the ground, he's endeavoring to keep it up as long as he possibly can. The skill was to keep that wing at exactly the right height, not too high, not too low, in order that eventually when it does fall out of control, it does it gently. It was enormously skillful. He did a very, very good job. And if I may say, I think he behaved subsequently in a most professional an admirable manner. I don't know the guy, but I take my hat off to him.
All pilots train to handle this kind of rare emergency in simulators. Every 6 months, they take an 8-hour refresher on how to handle incidents like undercarriage failures.
It's something that we practice in the simulator to give him some idea of working through the procedure, so the procedure is familiar, and also to experience what it would feel like if that happened.
It's that kind of training that enabled the modest Captain Jones to bring his craft in safely. Lawrence McGinty, News at 10.
The last governor of Hong Kong, Chris Patten, emphatically denied tonight that he leaked any secret documents to the broadcaster Jonathan Dimbleby. An investigation is underway into claims that he did, but the government confirmed today that it's only an internal Baikonur in Kazakhstan tomorrow for the space station MIR. Their mission is to get it working on full power again after the collision in June and all the problems which stemmed from that. But they're also setting out to rescue Russia's reputation as a leading player in space. Our Moscow correspondent Julian Mannion has tonight's special report from Baikonur on the final preparations for the launch.
It's the old warhorse of the Russian space program. The Soyuz rocket has carried cosmonauts on 74 successful missions with just 4 failures. This weekend, another one was rolled out for its stately journey down a rusty railway line to the launch pad. The men who will ride the rocket on this vital mission said goodbye to their families last week. Anatoly Solovyov and Pavel Vinogradov have the dangerous task of trying to put right some of the damage caused when a cargo ship slammed into the Mir space station 6 weeks ago. They will replace the Russian members of the existing crew who are exhausted after their long battle to save Mir. British-born astronaut Dr. Michael Foale will remain on Mir until September to assist the new team. The ground crews have prepared these rockets for launch countless times before, but only rarely has so much ridden on the success or failure of a single mission. Whether the cosmonauts get to Mir safely and then manage to carry out the vital electrical repairs will to a large extent determine if Russia remains a major power in space research. National pride is at stake, and Boris Yeltsin's personal security advisor, Yuri Baturin, is on hand for the final preparations.
If we fail to repair Mir, then Russia will no longer have its own space station, and all research will have to be done on the future international space station.
Pavel Vinogradov, the flight engineer, and his captain, Anatoly Solovyov, were quietly confident when they met the press this morning. They spoke through a glass screen designed to protect them from infection, and they confirmed that they will be doing a series of spacewalks, both inside and outside the crippled space station. They've been training for weeks in a massive water tank near Moscow. In this session, they practiced attaching grab handles to the outside of Mir to enable them to inspect the damage. But their first main objective will be to restore the station's electricity supply. Before the collision, most of Mir's power came from solar panels on the Spectre module, which was hit by the cargo ship. During the emergency, the crew had to disconnect the cables from the punctured module in order to shut the door and seal it off. Reconnecting those cables without depressurizing the rest of the station will be a complex task, as I was able to see inside a replica of Mir. The main problem that the cosmonauts will face is simply the extremely small, constricted area that they'll have to work in. They'll be wearing spacesuits, they'll be carrying bulky oxygen supplies on their backs, and they'll be surrounded by tools and equipment. And somehow in the middle of all that, they'll have to change a hatch and then find a series of electric cables and connect up to them. All of it in semi-darkness. In the history of Soyuz missions, 4 cosmonauts have died. Tomorrow, 2 men will once again risk their lives to try to ensure that their near-bankrupt nation remains a major power in space. Their courage and determination are not in question, but what they may need as well is a good slice of luck. Julian Mannion, News at 10, Baikonur.
Athletics, Denise Lewis.